Welcome back to Watching the Throne on the Late Night Chat Network, episode 70. You're going to be sad when that song's gone.
I know. He's only 3 more times, Jay. 3 more times. That's it.
You're gonna be sad. Trust me, you're gonna be upset. I know.
I'm gonna go back and start playing it on Spotify nonstop.
That's right.
Every time it's gonna be my new alarm clock in the morning.
My
It's gonna be his lullaby.
Yeah, my Spotify Wrapped is gonna be just all that song. Trust me.
All of a sudden,
My number one song played, Game of Thrones.
God, is his year-end wrap up. Oh my God, that would be hilarious.
But yeah, welcome back, everybody. Of course, Maester Stats here, aka Nico here, your host of Watching the Throne, and we got my co-host here, of course, now Lord JT. Apparently, no longer Sir JT. He's now, you said you got promoted to a Lord now, right?
I have to pick my side, so I
and which area? Which area do you preside over then? Like, you've learned a lot about their show. Which one?
The one who wins.
The one who wins. Oh my gosh.
And of course, our
actually,
yeah, go ahead. Our returning guest here, the Night Queen, aka Christina. How you doing?
I'm good. Thanks for having me back.
What were we gonna say there?
No, I was gonna ask. I was like, that's a good question. Like, I don't think we've asked. I was like, if you could preside over any of the kingdoms, like, which one would you want?
Right. Yeah, that is a good question. I don't know. So there you go. Think on that. This guy's no fun. I keep asking about his predictions because he's the only one that hasn't seen the show here. And he's like, I don't know. I don't want to guess anything. I don't want to be wrong. This guy doesn't think ahead. He lives in the moment. He lives in the moment, Christina. I don't want to cry.
I don't want to cry.
It's like part of the fun. Like, if you don't know, it's like, oh my God, all the predictions, like, yeah.
This guy already took me on a roller coaster with John already. They told me.
That really messed.
I remember
with his head.
I almost didn't want to watch the show anymore.
But that was so fun because you knew for a fact he did die, and the whole time he was worried that he was going to die, and he did die, but he comes back, which is what's fun about it, right?
The only
I'm starting to like the really angry bitches. Sorry, guys, no pun intended, but I'm really starting to like that. It turns me on, to be honest.
Okay. Well, you heard it here first, folks. Like, this is what JT looks for, angry bitches.
Unfortunately, he's in the same room with me right now, so you can please not have these conversations with me around. Like, at least Christina's safe on the other side there. I mean, wherever she's recording from, I gotta sit next to this fucking guy telling me about his turn-ons. Anyways, right, we're off the rails already, guys. All right, so here, welcome back. This is Watching the Throne. This is our kind of Game of Thrones review, overview, talking about episode by episode here of Game of Thrones. And of course, JT has never seen the show. For some context, if this is your first time checking in with us, so this has been a fun ride, getting his kind of like perspectives on things, hearing his opinions on these things for the first time. This is my first time ever rewatching the show. And of course, we always invite, or some of the time we invite guests on. Christina, who's going to actually be watching the entirety of the last season with us, has been on many times before, is our super fan guest here today, who's watched the show many times. And this was an interesting episode. Let's get this out of the way at the start here. This is definitely like, we have too many players involved, we need to get rid of a lot of people type of episode, like kind of clean the, you know what I mean? Like, in terms of the playing field here, we had to even things out moving forward for how many, like, there's a lot of deaths this episode.
I
guess
there was useless people, right? Like, useless.
Not useless, but like,
it pretty much was.
They had the
B-list characters. Yeah. They were like, some B-list characters.
They had to clear the decks a little bit. They're like, okay, we got a lot of characters here, and
up the storyline.
And these episodes, we've seen this last few seasons, there's always like one big battle episode. We've seen it with the wildlings. We've seen it even with like smaller battles between like the undead, the Nightwalker people already, and Nightwalker. And we've seen it with like even, wars between like different, kingdoms and stuff like that so far. But like, so we've come to expect this one episode, like, for the last few seasons, every season. And like, most of the time, these aren't the best, like, our favorite shows to talk about, because like, I do a lot of the legwork kind of just setting up like some of these scenes, because there's not a lot of things that are like that are fun to talk about in these episodes, let's say, because like obviously these are big moments that need to happen. These wars, these fights have to happen. These are good episodes, but like there's usually not a lot to unpack. But I think because we're so close to the end of the show here, there is a few things worth mentioning, like and really kind of getting into this episode. So feel free to jump in, guys, just because there's a lot of moments I kind of got to describe as we kind of get to it. But yeah, there is some things. I know, Christina, do you agree? Like there is some things worth mentioning here, obviously.
Oh yeah.
People get taken out that have been with us since the start in this episode. So
Yeah.
like this one's a little bit more important, I think, like than other battles that we've had in this show, right? And
Well,
of,
yeah.
yeah, and of course it's the culmination of one of the two biggest storylines in the whole series in this episode, right? So yeah,
Fire and the ice.
yeah. So yeah, there's a lot to kind of get to. But first off, though, I did want to get that out of the way. This is the longest Game of Thrones episode in the entire series, and that even includes the finale. I had to look this up because we're coming in at an hour and 21 minutes. This one, hence the name, the long night, Jay, the long night, the long episode, the longest episode of the whole.
It's actually the longest battle scene for I think television and or film.
Oh, really?
Yeah, like ever recorded. Like so it took 55 days for them to shoot this. I think it's longer than the fight scene that was in the Two Towers, the Lord of the Rings fight scene that they had there.
I was about to say something that would kind of be close to that would be that. Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that one was about 42 minutes long and this one was about 50. Yeah, it was a long time. It was, but it's the longest episode, the longest battle sequence ever recorded on television or film.
Nice. Well, there you go. That's pretty
Yeah.
good. That's
It seemed like it was. It seemed like I was watching it forever. Yeah, no, a lot of cool ways that they. I mean, if they had all those were all real people using those things. That's what I'd like to know too.
Well, I mean, there was a lot of special effects too, obviously,
I mean,
but yeah, there was.
I mean,
You mean the dragon's not real?
yeah.
The dragon wasn't a paid actor?
Look at you though, coming with the factoids. Oh, that's good. I'm glad someone's doing their due diligence with that side of things on this show because we really there's been if we really wanted to delve into a lot of the factoids that have to do with the show, which I guess we should have been doing more of.
No, I'm not allowed to look at those sort of things because then
that's
they go
true.
too far.
That's
ahead.
true. I guess
That's true.
At this point, I just print off the synopsis. I'm like, here we go, we're ready to go. No, that's good. I actually didn't know that, so thank you for that.
Yeah.
That's awesome. I do know that the longest fight ever in an anime is on Dragon Ball Z.
Oh, I thought it was between me and my ex, but you know.
Yeah, probably while he was playing Dragon Ball Z, right?
Kidding.
But well, at least it was. I think now that's been beaten possibly by one. But anyway, we're not here to talk about anime. Anyway,
Yeah.
No, that's interesting though. That's interesting. That I didn't know that was the longest. But yeah, I do know it's the longest episode of the season. And let's get this out of the way at the start because Jay actually mentioned this to me the other day. And Christina, we had talked about this, I think, on the last season when you weren't on because it's when this complaint started to happen. But this was the most notable episode for it. I think I brought it on. Maybe I was when Kyle was on last or something like that. But Jay actually came to me and he mentioned this was a dark ass episode, eh? And I'm just like, yep, this was a big fucking complaint from fans of the show at when this actually
Even
happened.
Digital quality.
Yeah, but go ahead. What'd you think? You
But
said
even digital quality. I mean, there was a lot of unfocused stuff too. There was a lot, I mean, I figured they had to do it because of the way the scene played out. I mean, it makes good for the title too as well. I get it. I mean, nobody has there's not a light switch you can turn on and start fucking using flashlights and shit like that.
Yeah.
And big ass halogen bulbs to see each other. But yeah, I get it. I understand why it's but at the same time, it is also a TV show. They can light it up a little bit for people to see. I mean, the CGI, if they needed to, did a good job of covering it up. But for the most part, I think the CGI did better than the regular dark scenes, to be honest with you.
Okay, so the first time I watched this on a crappy, like old school, like 10-year-old flat screen. Like I had people over, because it was a big deal. We watched it as it was like airing live, and all of it, like 20 minutes into the episode, we're just like, is the TV broken? Like, is the TV even on? Like it was the biggest, like we were like all of us I was watching like at that time were like so disappointed because it's like even though like it builds the suspense for what's happening, because there's a lot of scenes that in this episode that I think like required it to be that dark,
That's
just to build the suspense and like the what's going to happen next, like what's coming,
Yeah.
all of that. But it was definitely for a viewer's perspective, like yeah, the first time watching it was awful. And but now I have a way better television, so watching it now on a better quality TV, it's like okay, it's not so bad. But you definitely, and I should have forewarned you, Jay, like watch this episode in the dark, like turn off all the lights.
Yeah, I
You
watch
got
it
to watch it in the dark, because otherwise you're not going to see anything.
on my television watching. In the dark in the car.
Yeah, Jay watches it from the privacy of his phone in a car.
You know,
Not dark enough.
No, but yeah, it is, man. You're outside. Don't trust me. It's at night, and if you turn the brightness up too, it screws it up. You got to have a good balance to it so you can see. Trust me.
Yeah.
No. I'm telling you. So you could. I was noticing that when I turned the brightness way too high,
Yeah.
Yeah, because the backlight like it has the same effect as like a lamp, like a side lamp, right?
So, but I mean,
So yeah,
it
needless
was
to
just-
say, this was an issue at the time when the episode came out. I remember people even talking about it, like Christina said, like,
The memes.
yeah. I mean, like I remember I was telling Jay the other night when he brought this up to me, and that was like I didn't say anything to him, but I
No.
did mention earlier, starting last season, how there was a couple badly lit scenes. We had talked about it, and I kind of said there's going to be some episodes coming up that there was big complaints about it at the time. And when I looked it up online, what the people's defense were that worked on the show was that all of a sudden, like they were like, well, yeah, we're trying to, like, to your point, we're trying to show like, how it would actually be in like the dark fighting in this kind of like, but to your point about a viewing experience, that should also be taken into consideration when you're doing this kind of thing,
Yeah,
right?
straight up.
And I know if you're going to compare it to Lord of the Rings fight scenes, that was the big complaint that happened then, how dark certain aspects of that were too. But the Lord of the Rings, it was because, like you said, that CGI wasn't really great at that time, that a lot of stuff was dark and muddied, and they couldn't really
Pick it up.
Yeah, and you know how like CGI when they were first starting to do it, there was like slow-mo kind of action scenes sometimes that
Well,
kind of
it's-
like
yeah,
like it kind of it
It
wasn't
was too
didn't look-
cartoony.
yeah,
It was a little cartoony.
pick them up quick enough. That's what it was, and it just made it makes like anything. Like when we're recording here, if we, it's not picking up quick enough, you get a little bit
Yeah.
of pixelation going.
Yeah, so it was kind of like that, like Lord of the Rings a little bit at that time, which again, it was probably good for that time, but this is better in comparison if you're going to compare
Oh,
it.
yeah.
Like this looked really great at times, but it was dark. It was fucking dark.
yeah.
So sometimes you're like, who just died there? You're like, you can barely tell
Well, I mean,
sometimes. Like,
That's what I mean. It was hard to tell between the two, anyways, right?
Right.
If so, the dark just made it easier to blend in.
yeah, I remember like
But also that those lights everywhere would make like fire would make a weird, awkward shadow as well too. You got to remember that too. That's not the best sort of source of lighting. It's not like this light here shining on Nico,
yeah.
right? It's a totally different source of lighting. It's moving. It's doing different things. So yeah, there's a lot of different aspects. But
I remember I was a avid listener of the Howard Stern show at that time, and I still am, but I don't really listen every day anymore like I used to. And they would record on, obviously, back in the studio on Monday, and this played on Sunday, so they were all big fans of Game of Thrones. And I remember they went there, all of them were fucking complaining on the radio that morning about how fucking dark it was, and one guy came in and he was trying to say those same reasonings, like, you don't understand, it was supposed to be realistic. And they all just fucking yelled at him out of the room. You know what I mean? One of the producers,
Oh
like,
yeah.
everyone was so angry. It was like the Sopranos ending. Like, you know what I mean? Like people were like, "Oh my god, what's wrong with my TV? Just shut off. What happened? Where's the ending?" Like it was kind of like that. Like people were freaking out on that level, sort of like about how their TVs were dark and like yeah. So I don't know. It was just funny. I like that he had that same reaction though today. Like, you know what I mean? It's interesting. But go
Yeah, it
ahead.
brings me back. Like, I mean, like tensions were so high when I first watched it. Nico, I think you watched it at the same time, like as I did, like for the first time. And like it was like this was like so high stakes. Every episode that came out of this season for this show was so high stakes. So anything that went wrong or what we thought was wrong as a viewer, it was like criticized like nobody's business. Like it was everybody was talking about it. Everybody had something to say. And yeah, it was a really big deal. Now I can watch it and like enjoy it for what it is. So I
Yeah.
think that's a difference. I can watch it now and be like, yeah, it's still dark, but I can appreciate what it is, like, for what it is.
Yeah,
Like,
to your point, like kind of being a little bit more far removed from it now, like having time to sit with it and kind of rewatch it and all this kind of thing.
yeah.
You're not really as hyped, and that's why it should be interesting to hear our thoughts from the finale, the first go round, because like, yeah, you're right. You're gonna come at it a little from like, you know what I mean, like a little differently now. You're not so
Yeah.
wrapped up in the
Oh, you'll
moment.
see it on me
Yeah,
if I'm wrapped up in the moment because I've fucking done how many of these shows now?
yeah. So,
8
anyways,
seasons worth.
but let's get into it. You know,
I'll be
as I
pissed.
mentioned, we don't really normally look forward to talking about these episodes because there's like a lot to kind of cover in these ones, at least from my end. But
And it
there,
happens so fast.
yeah.
Like, all these scenes happen really quick, so it's, like, yeah.
So even some of the scenes that I normally would detail here from the synopsis that I pull offline, guys, like just be forewarned, like there's going to be some of these scenes that are going to be kind of happening at the same time that we're going to be going on about, just because, like you said, there's a lot of fighting and like cut scenes from different characters and stuff like during this battle moment. But yeah, there is a lot to unpack, especially towards like the last like third of the episode. So let's get into it here without further ado.
I made 7 pages worth of fucking notes.
Wow.
Yeah, well, jump in,
Nico
in.
goes,
Of
"There's
course,
you don't
yeah.
need notes. You don't need notes. No, it's just a fighting scene. Don't
And
worry."
yeah, Long Night, Game of Thrones season 8, episode 3. Of course, we're talking about here today. And yeah, so stay tuned. You know, we're Christina's gonna be joining us for the rest of the last season here. So yeah, we're looking forward to that. And House of the Dragon to come, guys. It's coming back this summer. I don't think there's still an official date. I've been looking.
I swear, I think it's August 21. I don't know why. I'm willing to like die on this sword. Like,
Is
I
that
think
a Sunday too? Let's take a look. If it is, you might be right because I haven't seen that anywhere. No, it's not. That's a Wednesday.
Yeah, but
What?
still, I mean,
No, normally it's on a Sunday. These shows,
no,
though.
man, but
Yeah,
Thursdays and Wednesdays are big fucking HBO
I don't
shows
know.
nights.
I don't
man.
know.
I'm telling you, Thursday's a big
No,
night.
Sunday is HBO like
Well,
prime
Sunday,
time.
but there is
Yeah.
prime time too. Now.
Not on
Thursday's always
HBO.
been prime time.
Not on HBO.
Yeah, it depends on who it's going
No.
up against too.
Well, agree to disagree.
All right,
All
we'll
right.
find out. I mean, you had what's it called, True Detectives on Thursday.
Yeah, that sucked. All right, night.
You got to watch it all.
I haven't watched it all yet, but still, it's fine. All right. Night has fallen at Winterfell. Samwell Tarly is fearful, and his nervous hands are filled with a pair of dragon glass daggers by an unseen benefactor. Tyrion Lannister takes several wine casks from the provisions to take with him to the crypts below, where the non-combatants are hiding. Bran Stark is wheeled to the Godswood, JT's boy here, to wait as bait, accompanied by Theon Greyjoy and his detachment of Ironborn, as well as Alice, Karstark, Sansa, and Arya Stark, who oversee one section of the castle wall, while Davos commands another. Lyanna Mormont commands defense of the main courtyard outside the gates. Brienne of Tarth commands the left flank, accompanied by Jaime Lannister. So yeah, as you can see, they're just kind of going around and showing you where everybody's kind of set up now with this incoming battle. It's about to start. We spent all the last episode with them waiting out the night, waiting for this moment, and here now the moment has come.
They're legitly like as a fucking army, they're legitly setting up, man. That's crazy.
Yeah,
how they did that. That was intense for me.
Well, Christina, I guess like you said, like they took what you said it was 50 hours to film this.
55 days.
Yeah, okay, it's crazy. Yeah, I knew it was a crazy number. I don't know why I said hours.
Wow.
Yeah,
Yeah, and I think there was about 750 people that they filmed, like, at any given time. There was on set, there was 750 people like on camera for this episode.
Yeah, so some of the White Walker people were probably people in costumes and shit too during this. It couldn't have all been a CGI, right? Was that?
Oh, yeah. No, I would assume so. I mean, I don't know, but I would assume that they would have some.
Yeah. Just to fill out the kind of like even the backgrounds and stuff like that a little bit better, right?
Yeah, and I think it would just make it more realistic to have like the main characters that we know, battle them,
That's hardcore. That's a big set. That's a good set piece then, doing it for 50 days. I guess that's where all their money went this season, as you can tell,
Well,
right?
That's what I was gonna say. This is where a lot of it, I think, cut the season short, man.
Yeah.
These next few episodes.
And then they are joined by Podrick Payne, Sandor, Clegane, Gendry, Edison Tullett, and Samwell Tarly. Grey Worm leads the formations of Unsullied, while Jorah and Kono ride along with the Thraki cavalry, accompanied by the Direwolf Ghost, who I know we weren't sure if he was dead or not. I always forget which ones are alive. I think he's the only one alive now. Oh, and then the other one that Arya is seen, and it's not hers anymore. Like he's like
Nymeria.
Yeah, she's part of a wolf pack now somewhere.
Fuck Arya, she left me, man. I don't even know her anymore.
Daenerys Targaryen and Jon Snow ride their 2 dragons away from the castle so as not to alert the enemy to their presence. So there you go. There's the setup at the start here. And
everybody's there. Like it's basically everybody except like fucking 2 families from the start, whatever, 2 or 3.
Well,
families
you're missing out on a big fat. King's
well,
Landing's not there either.
but a big part. But I mean, it's still. I mean, there's quite a few fucking people up there upcoming now.
Sure.
In the scene,
so a lot of
there's a lot of different.
It's the fight for humanity here, right? Like this is it. The moonless darkness is impenetrable and eerily silent until a lone rider appears, Melisandre. Jay was really happy to see her once
Where
again.
the fuck did she come from? Like seriously?
Yeah.
This has blew my mind.
She rides up to Jorah and asks him to command the Dothraki in their language to raise their Erics. I don't know what that is. When they do, she starts praying to the Lord of Light, in High Valyrian. The army's Erics suddenly burst into flame, sweeping from one side of the field to the other. Melisandre withdraws within Winterfell. Davos is about to kill her for Shireen, but she tells him not to bother as she expects to be dead before dawn anyway. Before she departs, she stares intently for a few moments at Arya.
Yeah, man.
So were you surprised to see her reappearance here? Yeah.
Obviously, because we haven't seen her. She disappeared, and then all of a sudden, why did she bring her back? I guess because you got to finish the story. I don't know. Like, I can't.
There was a purpose to bring her back.
No, I get the purpose.
She's always been talking about this kind of like these things happening though, but not in so clear.
No. Yeah, always
like all psychics.
Yeah, that's
they all know the future without the future. You know,
I'm everywhere and nowhere all at once.
Oh God, here we go again with the I am no one and I am the 3-eyed raven.
Yeah, everyone likes talking in riddles in this show. Haven't you learned that?
Oh God.
It has me. The next 2 episodes have me guessing. Like, they're all the riddles that are going on in it.
The Dothraki cavalry charge ahead into the night, their fiery arcs visible in the distance until they crash into the seething undead horde of White Walkers. The infantry around Winterfell can hear their shouts and watch in the shadowy distance as Dothraki war cries turn to screams of terror and the flames from their swords are quickly extinguished. Yeah, this was a cool looking moment too when they just ran into out into the darkness and they're all kind of just like waiting to hear like what went on. Yeah. A stray horse or rider manages to flee back towards the castle. One of them, a haggard-looking Jorah. The army of the dead advances in earnest. Anything about this? You guys have any? No?
I love this scene. Yeah. I love this scene. I think it was like visually stunning, like to see them go forward and then see all the lights just kind of like slowly die out one by one. And then it got quiet and sorry, Jay, I know I totally took over this reaction.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
No, I mean, he hasn't watched this, so it's like, yeah, what did you think? Because like I love this scene. I think like there's so many of these scenes that happen this episode that I'm just like, oh man, like yes.
Yeah, it kept you in. It kept you visually stimulated and wondering what's going to happen next, and it kept you hooked into the episode. Because I knew if they were going to have to hook you in somehow with a fight, they're going to have to hook you in, right? And that just did it.
Well, these are the moments that this darkness works. To their point, like this does build like imagine if you were there on the battlefield and you see a bunch of people go into the darkness and hear some cries or like, you know what I mean? Like, and then like see like the lights go out. You're like, what the fuck's going on over there? Right.
Like that in real life. If that was real and not so much computer generated, which I don't know 100%. I didn't look the facts up, but if they really had to light those things up like that, that was really cool. Timed, or if it was fire, I don't know if it was fire, or if it was just like, I mean, you couldn't tell. They could all have been lighting lighters there right beside it, but they'd have to be pretty well timed, right?
Yeah, I just wrote it was a very scary and dark experience kind of leading into this. Like, yeah, so I think they did set the mood properly for this, for sure. The Unsullied form phalanxes while catapults start shooting flaming barrels into the night. By the light of the fires, the true size of the undead horde can be seen. They rush down from the north and slam into the defenders around Winterfell. They are quickly overrun by the White Walkers who swarm over and on top of each other and infantry formations like a tidal wave. A savage melee sees most of them surrounded. They are killing White Walkers with their dragon glass weapons, but not nearly enough as the living dead dragged down and overwhelmed the defenders through sheer numbers. Yeah, it was pretty crazy start to this.
They
This
come
fight.
fast. They're
Yeah.
not like the Walking Dead type of
No.
dead. They don't just drag
Well,
their asses.
no, because they're basically still got. It feels like the endurance of like a actual living person. Still, like
Yeah,
it seems like they're just
bones,
dead.
right?
Yeah. So yeah, like obviously they can probably get taken out like maybe a little bit easier, like with certain methods as we see, like that as they fight them. But like
Yeah,
they're still, yeah, you know. But in different movies, zombies, there is movies with fast zombies and then slow zombies,
I
and
know, I
like
know.
yeah. But that,
I'm just that's
but-
the one I've been used to as a TV show. So
but
I
that's
guess
why
I know.
there's a distinction between like living dead and then zombies as well, right? Because
Yeah.
they're rotting and decompose. These are like skeleton fucking
Yeah,
warrior type
living dead,
people,
yeah,
right?
these
Yeah,
are like living
yeah.
dead. These guys-
Reanimated,
Yeah.
like they're basically brought back to life,
They're
but
just
they're
not gonna have a
dead.
conversation with you.
Well, yeah, I mean, and some of them are still not just skeletons; they are fucking like
Yeah. Because remember when they
the
when they
fresh
bring 'em
dead
up,
ones.
the
Yeah,
fresh- the
yeah.
fresh-
They're not decomposing.
yeah, they're kept on
Not yet.
ice, man. They're in
Yeah.
the fucking
No, yeah.
winter all the time.
Yeah, once their
right?
heart stopped, then they start fucking decomposing there.
Yeah.
But yet they run faster. See that?
Yeah.
Maybe there's a
Viewing the battle from the west, Daenerys is upset at the slaughter of her Dothraki and wants to strafe the White Walkers. Jon tries to stop her because the plan is to locate the Night King riding Viserion, who is being lured by Bran into the Godswood, at which point Jon and Daenerys can attack the Night King, but the Night King won't appear if they reveal their two remaining dragons. Daenerys shakes off Jon's arm and tells him the dead are already here, and she takes off on Drogon. Jon follows Daenerys on Rhaegal. Yeah, so oh yeah, then there's that whole scene I forgot to mention just before that where you see a bunch of horses run out and Jorah's there.
You
And-
mentioned that. Yeah. Yeah.
And oh sorry, did I? Okay, yeah. And,
Yeah. A haggard Jorah, you said.
yeah, that's right. Yeah. And then I wrote down here, again, there's a lot of different scenes happening around the same time. I wrote down here, I guess this wasn't included in the notes. There's a whole scene during all this when this is going on where Jaime comes to Brienne's defense when she gets overwhelmed on the battlefield at one point, I believe happens around this time, if I'm not mistaken. Like this is there's a time where they both kind of save
There's a
each
lot of
other
stuff in between
during
that.
this. Yeah. But this is the
Before that,
first time she like bellows out because she's getting kind of covered by them at one point. Like it seems like they're all like dogpiling her. And then Jaime kind of has to come over there and kind of like help her out
Well,
at one
that's-
point. And then like, yeah, because at one point she just like yells and like she's like, because they're biting and shit too. Some of these things, right? They like bite. as
Yeah.
well. They're not zombie. They're not gonna turn into an undead, but they'll
Well,
bite you. Like that's what's fucking like.
they're not. They're
those-
actually smart.
No, I know. That's what I'm saying.
Which
They're-
when that whole scene where they cross the fire to get to the thing,
right.
where they cross the trenches.
You're talking about in this one. You're talking about the ice that they crossed in the other episode.
No, this one here. We're not
That's
outside.
later on. Yeah.
Oh, I know,
I think
I-
it's coming up though. The trenches. We haven't gotten to that. I don't think. But yes, yeah, I know what you're talking.
We haven't gone to the trenches. The trenches comes in a little bit.
But yeah, no, it's just that they're not stupid. They're smart, but then people are starting to get nervous, as you know, in these scenes that are coming up. Like you can see them as they're fighting, and they're fighting these dead as they're going. You know, there's a lot of these guys getting nervous, like you said, as the Brienne, and Jaime.
This scene in particular with the hordes like just coming at them and like it's a true like war scene or like a battle scene. It reminded me a little bit, not the same because no battle I don't think was as good as the Battle of the Bastards in season 6, but this was a little reminiscent of that, like how it was just coming from all angles and all over the place. It's chaos, like just total chaos. With like just the amount of fighting going on and the amount of like just back and forth like there was. I do want to make another point. So about Jaime and Brienne, I think there was a couple scenes that were just like I guess like little Easter eggs, if you will. So if you remember, like back in like I think season 2, Ned's sword Ice was reforged into the into two swords. One is Oathkeeper and one is Widow's Wail.
Yeah.
And that's in this scene, both of those swords are fighting like for Winterfell. So it's like Ned's sword.
Yeah, it's a good point.
is like fighting for Winterfell like he would have if he was alive.
Yeah. That's a good point. That's right. Yeah, because it's the Lannisters that end up with them.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, so yeah, Joffrey had one and Jamie had the other. And of course Jamie gave one to
He had Widow's Wail, I think, the one that Joffrey had.
yeah, yeah, because he's an asshole.
Well, that was there was that whole line about Braun. It says he says something to Braun about the sword. He's like, "Oh, he really was a cunt, wasn't he?" I think there's a scene where he says that about like he's like, "What did he call this?" or something.
Yeah.
Yeah. I remember that. Yeah. That's right. Yeah, well, that's a good point. Yeah, no, that's a good point. Yeah, I guess he is there defending Winterfell still in a way, right?
There's a lot of things that like like at the time, again, like at the time when I watch it for the first time, you're not really thinking of all these things because it happens so fast and you're not whatever. But now it's like, I've seen it a couple times, like I've digested it. I'm able to read up on it and stuff. So there's little tidbits, but there's so many things that are being like brought back like full circle in this episode that um were reminiscent from like previous seasons and previous like episodes. So that was like one of them, like that, like
And that's what kind of is a big sign of like a good show too, is that when you revisit it, you get more and more out of it each time, right? Because
yes.
and then again, when you're watching it in the moment, you really don't have time to kind of think on these things or appreciate maybe some of the smaller moments that aren't even really explained for you, right? Because like there's years in the making, kind of going into this kind of stuff, storytelling. Then sometimes but that's what I mean. That's what makes revisiting good shows like this like worthwhile, as well as noticing those things. Yeah, so that's
100%.
They don't mention it, just noted.
Yeah, but
they
that's
were there. Right?
Yeah.
The two dragon riders make strafing runs on the undead army just behind the faltering human forces. Thousands of White Walkers are incinerated for a short time. This stems their tide, but more keep coming. The White Walkers themselves do not engage, instead staying in a mounted line far behind the front, content to throw wave after wave of undead pawns at the castle. Jon Snow sees the White Walkers and tries to make a bombing run at them. They might not be the Night King, but any of the hundreds of undead White Walkers each of them has raised will instantly die again if he can kill them. Before Jon can even reach their line, however, a massive cold blast of air forces him back. The White Walkers have magically summoned a huge snowstorm. Both dragons can barely stay in the air and nearly fly into each other during the whiteout.
Was that like that whiteout? Did it just come because they were running and it's
No,
just
the
like
Night
the
King.
wind following?
It's the Night King.
Them?
The Night King.
The Night King.
I honestly thought it was like just summer, getting nighttime and you're getting a storm coming in off the lake.
He can conjure this stuff essentially.
It made me feel like real life. Like it made me feel, well, a storm could show up at any given time, right? It could be a wall of snow and it could be nighttime. And
that's all his doing essentially, is that he's able to do that. Like he controls, like I guess, like cold weather or something like that. Like
it's probably better described in the book, I would think.
Sure.
To find out he has some sort of powers. That.
I just find it interesting because like even at this point, or not even at this point, earlier in the series, they figured out the whole fact of the matter is that they are kind of like a hive mind. If you take out the guy who's in like they're all connected to him in a way where if you take out the leader, you know what I mean? Like usually most things you don't learn that until it's time to take them out. Like any other thing where this kind of concept has been kind of it's more like they learn about it in the end. And then they know the solution and then they can take him out. But they're like, this is how you take him out. This whole time they knew how they could take him out. The whole show, like almost like after they found out about these guys, there was that moment where they figured it out for themselves a while ago. But ever since then, it's you know what I mean? Like, which is surprising just because so many other things, they don't know that until they know, and it's like right at the end, and then they're able to take the guy out. But in this case, they actually know what they need to do, at least going into this fight, right? Which is a big deal, because if they didn't know that and they were just fucking endlessly just fighting all these people and he keeps resurrecting them, they would never stand a chance. Like if they just knew this guy out.
Definitely not.
Right. And that's worth noting, because another thing people gave people a hard time about it, and I think you're actually one of them, Christina, so I don't know if your opinions has changed, maybe I'm wrong, is how easy they felt like he gets taken out in this episode at the end there, because there is, but we'll get to that when we get to that. But because I remember, if it wasn't you, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but there was some people I know, fans, not just Christina, the fans of the show that were upset and felt like this was kind of, maybe you still feel the same. We'll see.
Oh my god, man. I can't wait to like hear what my sassy mouth was saying like back then cuz like can only imagine. There's so much attitude for no reason.
Seeing no, you're passionate about this thing, right? A lot of fans were.
Oh yeah, passionate.
Yeah.
You gotta add snippets of audio clips. Seriously,
Yeah.
Put her questions, put it up against the last time.
Worst finale ever. It's like stuff like that.
Yeah.
No, seriously. It's true.
Seeing the fight approach, you know what? I'll say this. The only thing you have going for you, though, is that we don't have the original recording. Because I bet you there's some things that were left unsaid on the re-recording that we had than there was on the original.
Yeah, because the passion wasn't there. Like it was like a re-recording. So it's like the same things we talked about that I had calmed down a little bit about.
For anybody who doesn't know,
much,
we
but yeah.
recorded our initial reactions at the start of the Late Night Chat show 5 years ago, guys. We're going to end up listening to it after we finish the show in our last episode this time around before we record. That'll be interesting. So anyways, seeing the fight approaching, Arya tells Sansa to flee to the crypts, that she'll only get killed if she remains, but Sansa protests she can't abandon her people. Arya gives her sister a dragon glass dagger to defend herself with. And when Sansa says she doesn't know how to use it, Arya advises her to stick them with the pointy end.
Simple.
Yeah, well, I know. I mean, not to say that I get saying you're not great with using it, but I think everyone knows how to use a knife.
She's honestly, I mean, she put up with like fucking some crazy husbands and shit. She should know what she's doing.
But she doesn't like she's still like we forget like she's still like a lady like and ladies like weren't trained to do this like she barely cuts her own meat like at her dinner plate like she doesn't really know how to use a knife like
right. She's worked against wanting to learn how to like actively does not want to, you know what I mean, like that's
she's around that type of
the
royalty and all that.
The remaining infantry is badly affected. The only infantry still holding up reasonably well by this point are the lockstep legions of the Unsullied, horrifically trained to strip away all fear and robotically follow their battle formations. They hold in their phalanxes, but even these are slowly but steadily being consumed by the scrambling mass of White Walkers. A full retreat into the castle is ordered, and Grey Worm commands the Unsullied to form up a rear guard to protect the withdrawal of their few remaining forces. Samwell Tarly is nearly killed in the retreat, but Dolores Ed saves him, only to be stabbed from behind and killed. There's one guy who's been around for a long time in this show. He got taken out here. The the White Walkers gradually forced their way forward in slaughter, even as Unsullied reinforcements step forward to take the place of each that falls. Any comments here on this? Were you surprised to see him get taken out? I guess he was a dispensable character at this point.
Again, B-list character.
Yeah, he's part of the Night's Watch, whose story we're not really even focused on anymore at this point. So yeah, he could get rid of him, right? So
to see that there is, I mean, I don't know if it was me, but on Grey Worm's face, didn't you see a little bit of fear? I think there was a little bit of fear there. They have to.
Nah, man, this guy.
They stand up, but they have that look in their eye. That look like he was worried that something's crazy.
Yeah.
About to happen.
In the crypt, Sansa meets other women, including Missandei and children, as well as the infirm and non-combatants, Tyrion and Varys. Okay, that happens quick, and then back to the battle. I think
he's like he should be up there, like helping out.
Like, I know, but if you were like even in that scene, like because Sansa shows up, and of course, like everyone's like looking at her, like, "What news doth you bring?" And she's just kind of like looking at them, like, "Yeah, no, I don't have anything nice to say right now," because that's when Tyrion like he looks at her and they make eye contact, and then he like starts drinking again because he's like, "Oh God, here we go."
I just like how he always references the Blackwater Bay fight. Like he's been, he's been eating out on that battle for the whole series. You know what I mean? Like he's just like everybody who mentions, well, I'm the reason that we won that, but yes, he is. But like
you got a scar in the meantime. But yeah,
and then they're like, then you went on the battlefield, you nearly got killed. Like you need to not be involved in the fighting. You're a dwarf, right? Like no, it's true. He'd get killed out there. He would be dead if he was out there during this fight. Probably.
This this one, oh, for sure,
This
hands
one
down.
for sure, I think he would.
I don't
be.
think he'd be able to run away.
Listen, he's formidable. Don't get me wrong. He's survived way longer than he should have in this series. He's great. I love Tyrion, but like
his strength is his mind, like in his charm. Like it is not his strength like his brother or anything. That's been alluded to a million times in the show over the so it's like
it's one of his main character traits for sure.
Yeah.
As Jon and Daenerys struggle to find one another in the storm, Jon calls Daenerys' name and they eventually reunite above the storm clouds. As they try to get their bearings, the Night King appears riding Viserion and pursues Daenerys and Drogon. Jon tries to follow them but is knocked out of the way while Daenerys manages to evade the attack. When Daenerys and Jon find each other again above the clouds, the Night King is gone. The Night King makes his way to Winterfell. Anything I don't know, these whole thing with them lost in the snow, whatever, it was fine. I mean, I have nothing really much to say about that. I would be
I mean, I don't know, it like added a little bit of suspense because it's like, oh my god, what's gonna happen? Like these dragons are so valuable to like what's happening, like Daenerys's cause, but also like just the fact that they can breathe fire and like kill these hordes of people if needed. Like I don't know, it just added to the whole suspense. Like
genetically we know like dragon's a lizard and the lizard can bring their temperature down so they can survive in the winter. And so we know where we're.
Well, look at this guy genetically. Jesus, who invited this guy? This fucking guy over here.
Steve Irwin 2.0.
But they didn't. But they couldn't. They couldn't afford,
hunter.
No, they couldn't afford to put snow and ice on any of their hair because
All right, you're getting too technical over there. Get out of here. All right. You're thinking too much on this.
Through that snowstorm. You know how your windshield gets covered, and if you were walking through it, you get covered in snow. They had nothing on them. How? Streamline hair? Come on.
I think it was just a fog. I think it was just an icy fog. It wasn't like a snow. It was just an icy fog.
Pick up for the directors.
Listen, if we had this conversation like when it aired, oh Jay, I would have been on your side, no problem. I've had time to digest.
You're thinking about, trust me, man.
I can't believe that this is the hill you're gonna die on. You're like pissed about these scenes. You're like, really?
They're so insignificant. Yeah. There's no snow in their hair.
The Unsullied are on the verge of being overwhelmed when the last of the main hosts gets back through the gates. We're moving on, right? Desperately, Grey Worm orders that the entrenchments around the castle, is the part that Jay mentioned earlier, which have been filled with flammable pitch, be set on fire. Grey Worm himself is with the last remaining rear guard who cannot abandon the earthworks if they are not set aflame. Attempts by Arya and the other archers to shoot it with flaming arrows are blown away by severe winds, while a snowstorm prevents the dragon riders from seeing their signal to light it. It's causing a lot of issues for them, snowstorm, for sure, for sure.
Right? I didn't know what he was doing, and he was like calling his airplane.
And then all of a sudden, Melisandre appears, laying her hands on the trench works, and repeats her prayers to the Lord of the Light, straining with a massive effort. At the last moment, the entire trench ringing Winterfell bursts into flames.
What did she say? What was the word she said?
Something in Valyrian.
Yeah,
I don't know. Do you have it? Do you have it up?
I think I have it. Where is it?
Why I asked that, and I wanted to ask this question is because the only reason I thought maybe it would have been on the thing, but because usually I have the subtitles on, and
I think it's Ixeo Onos.
I don't care about that. But what did it mean?
Lord's Light.
That's all I want to know because I was trying to. I didn't want to look it up, but it didn't show as a.
She said it meant.
Yeah, Valyrian isn't like a language that like is on a subtitle.
Oh, this like. I love this. Go.
You're gonna complete your sentence there. I don't even know what the fuck you were.
Wow, he was really.
Oh, look at me.
Man, you really have the hots for this.
Look at him. He's just like.
At one point, I got her close. Fuck, man.
All right, Grey Worm and the men withdraw behind the castle gates, which closed. The White Walkers then proceed to robotically halt, sensing the danger.
Yes, they were scared.
Yeah.
For the first time that I've seen so far.
Tyrion laments that he should at least be up on the battlements, even if he can't fight well, as we revisit them in the basement here. Just like at the Battle of the Blackwater, he and Varys could still use their there you go, Battle of the Blackwater. They could still use their great intellects as commanders to try to see something other people wouldn't. Sansa, gives them shit about the, with the witty remarks that they're basically points out that their witty remarks will make a difference. And the bravest thing that they can do now is look the truth in the face. Tyrion is moved and quips that maybe they should have stayed married, to which Sansa responds, "You were the best of them."
You know what? It's so true, man.
Which,
Now that
yeah.
you think about it, she should have.
Yeah. I like this.
But I brought this point up last time. It was like, did they actually ever like get divorced? But then they never consummated their marriage. So it's like, is it really a true marriage? Like at the time.
Yeah.
So it's like, yeah, they were married, but it's like, aren't they still technically married? He's the only living husband she has.
Mm-hmm. They certainly had a moment here in this episode too. Like I actually, at this point, it actually isn't as far-fetched as you would have thought it would have been.
No, it could have worked.
Right? Yeah. It's because he's a totally different person now than he was even at that time. Yeah. Like, so
he was still very kind to her, like from the get-go. So that hasn't changed, but him as as an individual has totally grown and totally changed.
Yes.
So
remember the last time I seen him at a whorehouse. That's what I mean.
He hasn't. He just said he said earlier. Was it this episode? He said
it was in the next one.
He says he hasn't gotten laid in I don't know how long. He's like
years.
You guys are waiting for that one. Nice,
I actually wrote that in my comments for the next episode. All right. So yeah. Tyrion is moved and quips that they should have stayed married, to which Sansa responds, "You were the best of them." Tyrion remarks, "That is a terrifying thought." That was a funny moment. Sansa continues, a marriage wouldn't work out between them because of his loyalty to Daenerys, and that Tyrion being divided between herself and Daenerys would be a problem. Missandei defends her queen, saying that without the Dragon Queen, they'd all be dead by now. Yeah, she gets a little uppity. She gets pissed off. She hears this. Right?
Yeah, she walks off.
Yeah, she's like, "How dare you?" Right? So, listen, I get it. She's loyal to her, right?
Loyalty.
Yeah.
Right?
Yes.
In the Godswood, Theon Greyjoy can also hear the approach of the undead army. He starts to apologize to Bran, but Bran politely cuts Theon off, saying that everything he did led to where he is now, home.
but what's the best line coming out? I think the next, right after this, he's like,
Theon is moved, but Bran must leave now.
I gotta go now. I'm going now. I'm going. What does he say?
Warging. Yeah. Well, he says, "I must leave now." Yeah. And he wargs into flocks of ravens around Winterfell. Through the raven's eyes, he comes across the Night King on Viserion just as he is ordering his army to press their attack. Where are we sitting with Bran at this point? I'm going to tell you, revisiting this, my thoughts have not changed on him. I'm just like, yeah, listen, dude's powerful, and there's a meaning to him being there. Like
powerful.
He was able to walk.
He's important to the overall, the way that everything was supposed to happen, I guess, whatever.
He's just
prophecy shit.
He had one important thing that he revealed, and that's it. And it didn't even matter. We're not even talking about it right now. We're not talking about it. We're not talking about it.
Is necessary, I think, to some degree.
After the next 2 episodes, I find that he's a little bit necessary in certain parts. It's just to clean it. It's another way to clean up a storyline. Is to clean up a
He's the most disposable character, though. I will say that. And out of all the Starks and everything, whatever. Anyways.
Yeah, he is disposable. But I guess we'll talk about it.
Nice to say that about somebody in a chair.
It has nothing to do with the chair. It's him. It's like he could have just been walking around the whole time.
I don't love him either. Trust me, I don't. But
anyways,
in the so yeah, he sees that the Night King psychically has his White Walkers smother the trench across multiple spots. Many of them burn, but the flames are still quickly extinguished, breaching the outer defenses. Thousands of them start swarming around the base of Winterfell's great stone walls, then climb over each other in a mass, using their strength to grip into crevices in the stone. Yeah,
that was cool AF. And even now, I'm just like, that is so clever. Like, I don't know. It seems so simple. Like, yeah, I don't know. I loved it. Again, this is another one of those like, wow, clever, love it. Great battle tactics.
They bring him back to life again. It's okay.
Yeah. Well, they've had a few moments with the White Walkers with that like clever kind of like responses to that that the other people don't even see coming. Like, the
Well,
ice.
frozen with the
Yeah.
rock, yeah.
Yeah.
So it was kind of like, oh wow, okay, this is. You kind of thought they were gonna do something, but then when you see the first one walk and then the next one, and you're like, oh fuck, these guys are gonna make like a little,
Bridge.
yeah,
Yeah.
with themselves, right?
Oh, they're able to sacrifice
Sacrifice a few
themselves.
for the
Yeah,
many.
for the many. Yeah, exactly.
Wow.
Despite having lost so many men out in the field, the castle's walls are a major force multiplier for the defenders, and they kill many more hundreds of White Walkers as they reach the tops of the battlements. Even so, more keep coming as the snowstorm reduces the castle to a whiteout amidst the flames. Jaime Lannister is nearly overwhelmed by a dozen of them, but Brienne carves her way to him using her Valyrian steel sword and saves him. Jorah Mormont similarly manages to save Samuel Tarly using Heartsbane, the ancestral Valyrian steel sword of the House of Tarly that Sam lent him for the battle. Arya manages to pick off many of them with flaming arrows. Sandor Clegane, with his severe fear of fire, is left frozen as Beric Dondarrion urges him to keep fighting. Sandor pleads that they can't beat death itself, to which Beric points to Arya and says, "Tell her that." Yeah, this was pretty
Yeah,
great.
that was
This
pretty
moment.
cool. She was trying to kick ass, and he's like got a pure PTSD moment. there.
Yeah. Well, he's had it many times.
Yeah,
Yeah, right.
This
But
is like serious. Like, I mean, we're at fucking war.
Mhm.
I really liked too how the camera kind of was like you kind of were weaving through the battle moments, touching base with all these
All the
people.
characters.
There's certain parts of this episode where they've done it before, I think,
Yeah.
in the Battle of the Bastards as well, where they were kind of doing their when they're all around the castle, kind of showing like the fight go on. But this one, again, they did the same thing. Like they kind of the way they made you kind of feel like you were there, and they were kind of weaving in and out, like kind of seeing where people were all. Like it was like one of those like moving kind of scenery type moments. You know how like in certain movies where they keep the camera going and they like obviously there's a lot more like effects put in place for this, but like to see everybody in their place kind of doing shit on different kind of parts of the scenery at moments of this fight were pretty cool. It's done better in Battle of the Bastards, I think, than in this episode, but I like how they kind of, because there's a lot more cutscene type stuff happening in this than there was.
I think, yeah, and there's just a lot of characters in this scene too, right? Like with Battle of the Bastards, there weren't like there's a fraction of the amount of characters to focus on, like in that,
Yeah, but it's like the moments that I like though are always like the frantic kind of like running moments with a lot of these guys. Like, you know how like even when like the Jon moments when like it's not even in this episode. There's episodes coming up with Jon where it's like that, where shit's going on in the background and they're like, ducking and weaving and dodging and sword. Like I love those moments where you see someone like in hot pursuit of trying to like get to somewhere and like you have to deal with all this shit in your way. Like I like that shit, man. In these battles,
like as opposed to single shot, as opposed to like a motion shot.
Yeah, like or the dragon moments that he has later in this episode, like when it's like, we'll get to it, the undead one, but anyways. The tide of the battle turns against the defenders again. What a great moment. As Lyanna Mormont tries to organize the defense of the main courtyard, a large White Walker giant bashes its way through the main gate of Winterfell. More flow in behind it, leading the advance, knocking Lyanna to the side and taking out any of her soldiers still standing. Recovering, young Lyanna grabs a dragon glass blade and charges the undead giant while letting out a battle cry. The white giant casually snatches her up in his hand, however, and holds her up to his one remaining blue eye. The giant clenches his fist, crushing Lyanna's chest in as her bones snap, yet her hand is still free. And with one last defiant cry, she stabs the dragon glass into the white giant's eye. It instantly dies and topples to the ground. Lyanna falls free of his grasp, but dies from her injuries. What a fucking moment this was. I love this scene.
You hear the crunching too, eh?
Yeah, I just love how she just like ran in there like,
yeah.
She's fucked anyways. Basically, okay, she's screwed.
She's such a little warrior, like little Lyanna. She's such a little fighter. Right. Yeah.
I love this moment. Yeah.
I think this is like this is another one of those like recall from past episodes when the other giant won that was shot in the eye with shot with a bunch of arrows, and he died in that same spot. So it's kind of like bringing that back too as like a
poor giants. I know. I love these giants, but they always end up getting killed in these episodes. Yeah,
they're not very smart. They got power, but they ain't very smart.
He
He's just swinging his arm thing around and his thing, just knocking people flying this way, that way. That was fucking awesome.
I just think it's one of the best deaths of the series, quite honestly. Just like this is like a very like David versus Goliath type moment. You know what I mean? Like literally like the whole giant kind of aspect
This
to it
is
too. Like with
almost the smallest one on the screen.
yeah,
in
that's
in the show.
here's the
Yeah.
thing. Jumping ahead because of the deaths in this episode, and I can't remember if they touch on this towards the end of the series, so maybe don't answer it flat out, Christina. But House Mormont, they're all done here. These two, right? Wasn't that his concern? Wasn't his whole concern was that she has to be the one to lead House Mormont because he is not part of his house anymore?
Because who wasn't?
Jorah.
Was concerned
yeah.
for Lyanna in the last episode when he was trying to talk her out of it was that she has to lead House Mormont because without her, there's no one else. That's the whole fucking reason that she's a kid leading the house because Jorah's no longer part of his house.
But when they said
he was exiled.
Exiled,
but that was prior to them actually going up to the north and knowing she was there.
No, but Jorah dies in this episode too. That means there's who else is there to?
No, that's it.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, after Jorah.
For what we, as far as we know, there's no other Mormonts now, is there?
Not that we know of, unless you know.
But that's what I mean. I can't recall if they touch on that towards the end of the series.
One of the wildlings got a Mormont.
Yeah, man. No, I think Christina's actually thinking about it. I don't think she knows flat out either, because like because they went out of their way to say that last episode.
Well, there's a few houses, like even the Unwins, like from the last episode, that little boy, he was like the lord of like is it Unwin? Yeah, anyways, like them, like in the north, and like when they went to the castle, like he was, staked up there with the swirly thing. Anyway, so yeah, there's a few houses that I think are done
representation. Yeah,
Robert, no.
But yeah, great scene. But yeah, we'll try to pick up the pace here. The Night King makes another run towards the Godswood, but Jon and Daenerys predict where he was headed. Jon spots the Night King and pursues him. When the Night King approaches the castle walls directly and is just about to strafe Winterfell, Jon attacks him from atop Rhaegal. Rhaegal clashes with his undead brother, and a battle between the two factions ensues in the skies above Winterfell. Any comments on this?
Those are good.
Yeah.
That was a good fight. Like you can see it. It was very graphic. I mean, they did a good job. I don't think that's what I'm saying. A lot of the CGI scenes were a little bit better lit than I think the regular scenes, for sure.
Yeah.
Right?
Winterfell is overrun here. The entire courtyard is overrun, and all the remaining order to the siege collapses as the White Walkers spread to surround any remaining pockets of resistance here and there around the castle. Arya, who was knocked out against the stone wall, recovers sometime later, stumbling into the Winterfell library.
This is cool. This is when all her training comes into effect.
Right.
Being sneaky, dodging stuff around.
The fighting has moved away from this part of the castle as White Walkers shamble about looking for survivors to pick off, using her stealth, as you mentioned, training from the Faceless Men in this scene. And then what do I
think they could have made that better. I mean, the scene was good, but it's like I don't think they needed to go through like seasons of her training for this one scene. Like,
yeah,
I don't think it's for this one, just for this one scene.
I agree with what she's saying, though, because I remember when we finished that season, we were talking about this kind of seemed like a long drawn out season for
it had nothing to do with her, and they were paying her, so they got to keep her in the storyline somewhere.
She utilized her techniques, let's say, that she learned a couple of times, but not to the degree of like, yeah, exactly. I don't think it was. I think they just didn't really know what to do with her in that season. Honestly, like it seemed like a weird sidestep for her character. I would have, I don't know.
They're all supposed to be where they're supposed to be.
She also abandoned her training though at the end of the day, like that. She was like, this path isn't for me, and she fucking abandoned that Faceless Men situation.
But she still took a lot of.
She still took some of the. Yeah, she does have some skills she's acquired from there. It's all part of, I guess, life.
But she's not like Jaqen, right? Like she's not like him. So
woman now, leave her alone.
In the crypt, Sansa and the others can hear a handful of living men desperately pounding on the heavy doors to let them in. Sure. This is pretty tragic, but understandable. I mean, it's going to happen, but they know they cannot risk a flood of White Walkers passing the barricade. They hear the men's cries, which are quickly silenced. I mean, listen.
I mean, I ain't opening this.
Like
Yeah.
everybody on the like lifeboats in the Titanic, like just slowly listening to everybody just like quiet down. Like that's traumatic.
It's traumatic, but like it's the
Shit
reality
happens.
of what's like gonna happen in that moment. Like
Yeah.
it's unfortunate. Yeah. Arya slowly sneaks past all of them in this scene, only for the White Walkers to burst through the door after her as soon as she leaves. She runs into Sandor and Beric, however, also fleeing the White Walkers and help them fight them off. The trio make a running retreat through the narrow hallways of the castle's interior. Eventually, Beric is stabbed multiple times and barely manages to drag himself after them
He's
into the
holding
Great
them
Hall.
back, though. He's
Yeah.
like, a real soldier. He's a knight, and he's just holding the wall.
Whose heavy doors hold after they shut them. Once inside, Beric succumbs to his injuries, but in the hall, Arya and Sandor also find Melisandre waiting. She remarks that in saving Arya, Beric has fulfilled the purpose of the Lord of the Light that he had for him, which she's been talking about this whole fucking time, Beric, about how he had to he knew
He keeps getting brought back to life, and this is his purpose.
Arya
This
recall.
was his last
See,
time.
but going back to what I was saying, that's what I mean. That's the theme, Christina, is the purpose. It's a purpose of no matter how small the
Yeah.
contributions are to this whole thing. Everything's predestined. They keep saying in this show,
I mean,
right?
yeah, it's playing towards what's going to happen in the end of this
Right.
episode.
Arya recalls that they met before, and Melisandre said they would meet again. Melisandre reminds Arya that she said Arya would close many eyes forever, including blue ones, of the White Walkers, and asks Arya what they say to the god of death. Arya responds, "Not today." She departs, newly determined in her goal.
Not today.
I like that Sandor saved Arya, though, in this moment, really helped her out. And I like the relationship with these two towards the end of the series. I like how that's changed over time, how they fucking hated each other. She wanted to kill him, and now they're actually he actually cares for someone. You know what I mean? It's nice. It is nice.
He has a soft spot for the Stark girls. I think he feels bad for what happened, but
yeah.
I just call him the Hounds. He keeps calling him Sandor.
That's his actual name.
They call him Clegane.
No one refers to him as the Hound at this point in time. Just saying.
No.
I do, because I think it's cool.
Okay. Meanwhile, the dragons are locked in battle in the sky above Winterfell, with Jon and the Night King fighting in fierce close quarters mid-air brawl on their dragons. Okay, then we cut back to what happens next here. We're all over the place here. Where is my notes for that?
Theon, man, he's getting ready to protect him.
Theon?
No,
is it Theon?
No, not yet.
Oh, here we go. The White Walkers advance through Winterfell's Godswood and are picked off by Theon's archers. Yeah, that does happen now. And then Viserion badly claws Rhaegal's belly while the Night King readies another one of his dragon-killing ice javelins, but the dragons are swirling around so chaotically he can't get a clear shot from his mount. Despite his wounds, Rhaegal manages to land a bite on the other dragon and tears the left half of his face off, but this is not enough to stop him.
I was wondering, he spit something out like that too, and I didn't really see
it was his jaw. It was Viserion's lower jaw.
Oh wow, that's nice to heal.
Dragons are taking a beating, man. Yeah, the dragons aren't doing so hot here, right? So it is, however, enough to significantly distract the Night King, who doesn't notice Daenerys' approach on Drogon. They collide with Viserion with such impact that the Night King is spilled from his mount while Drogon tears into Viserion. Rhaegal, however, is badly wounded enough that he needs to make a forced landing, dropping Jon on the ground again before fleeing.
Wow, that's why he did the crash landing. I was like, okay, it was him that got ripped, because that's where a little bit got confusing, because they look like the same dragon when they're up there until the fucking orange or the blue is coming out of their mouth, right? So I mean, you'd say that part was hard to see, right?
I also like that you get a reunite, all the dragons are reunited, even though one's undead now. It's kind of cool to see all of them now in the mix, along with Jon, also, who we now know is a Targaryen on a dragon as well, right? Which
and it's the first time. Now we're used to seeing whatever with House of the Dragon, dragons and fighting and stuff, but this was the first time that we saw dragons fighting each other too, right, which was really cool because we hadn't seen it before.
Right, which is so much of that in the House of the Dragon, compared to this, it's there's a whole bunch of scenes with them out on the dragons doing shit, right? Training. It's how to train your fucking dragon on that show. Well, it is. I mean, there's certain moments of it where they're like, okay, this is what you have to do now, right? But it's kind of cool to see that now. knowing that he's also Targaryen and it kind of comes naturally to him, let's say. We're going to go with that, right? Because what else can we say with this old Jon's able to fly on these dragons?
I just love, actually, now that we say that, I'm like, I just love how nobody else is questioning this.
No, I know.
But he just doesn't. He still doesn't know. Like, look at how he knows how to ride. He's just holding on for dear life. Like half the time.
But it's one of those things. Again, I think fans of the show may have just not picked up on, and they're well. That's what I mean. It's like it's like the Avatar thing. Like he's supposed to. Yeah, well, like they're supposed to. They're like there's a connection there between them, but they just make it seem because you don't know that he's Targaryen at first. Like you're like, why the fuck is this happening? You see him flying around, like no problem.
Yeah.
It's so I don't know. I that's another complaint I remember people saying, right? Like, how does this guy mastered riding a dragon in 2 scenes? What's going on? Anyways,
those 2 scenes took fucking 30 months, man.
Drogon sends the badly injured Viserion crashing into the castle while Jon regains himself on the ground, finding he is on the abandoned outer battlefield and not far from the Night King, who is proceeding on foot to the breach in the walls leading to the Godswood and Bran. Daenerys reaches the Night King, and with the command of Dracarys, has Drogon blast him with dragonfire. When the smoke dissipates, however, Bran's warning is proven unfortunately correct. Even Dragonfire cannot kill the Night King, who is completely undamaged. He still has 1 ice javelin left, and as he readies to throw it at Drogon, Daenerys flees and manages to narrowly dodge the shot. What did you think of this?
Well,
like seeing that it affected him. Were you shocked by this, or you were expecting that? Because that was pretty fucking crazy.
Because it's kind of like a fucking tit for a tat. Because I mean, apparently fire didn't kill fucking Daenerys in the beginning, and now ice doesn't.
He's ice though. Like,
but you know what? To be fair, we saw him walk through fire before.
That's true. That's a good point.
This is not the first time that he was like set on fire. Like, but you know, so maybe we're thinking, okay, like regular fire versus dragon fire. Ooh, maybe there's a difference, but it's still fire.
That's a
like,
that's a good point. That's a good point.
We think Daenerys could survive. Daenerys could survive the winter because, you know,
I don't think it works like that, Jay. I don't think it works like that.
Nice try, though.
One can survive the ice. One can survive the fire. One can survive the ice. I'm just trying to figure it out.
No, because it's not a battle between her and him. Like, it's just like it's not a battle of them.
I get you.
Jon pursues the Night King, but just as he is about to reach him, the Night King silently turns to him and raises his arms, resurrecting all of Winterfell's defenders who died in the battle up to this point, including Dolorous Edd, Lyanna Mormont, and Quono into White Walkers. Jon finds himself surrounded again and struggles to fight off the new White Walkers as the Night King continues into the Godswood. All I wrote down here is that I even recall this at the moment when that happened. I'm like, this is hopeless. Holy shit. Like that, like when that happens, I'm just like, what? And you know, and again, halfway through,
I read it around a long time ago, but yeah.
But when I seen that, like I was like, this is hopeless. Like when I saw that, like I knowing what actually happens, I still was just like, in that moment in time, as fans, we were just like, yeah, I don't know how they're gonna get out of this one. And then you know they do moments later, but
yeah, like he's surrounded, dude.
Yeah.
They're all surrounded. And then, you know, like I know you're going to discuss it like the next scene with in the crypt, and then that's happening in the crypt and all of that. It's like, oh my God, like how are they going to get out of this? You know, like I remember watching this and being like feeling this way, because I still, even watching it a million times, still feel this way. But it's like, you know, there was a little part of everybody that was like, this is only episode 3 of 6.
Yeah.
So it's like, what the hell are they going to do for 3 episodes if this is it? Like something is going to happen. Something crazy is going to happen. You know, like what is going to happen though? Like this feels hopeless. Like what's really next?
Does. Whenever he resurrects them, it's just like, oh, what like they just resurrected everyone they lost, right?
Everybody, yeah.
Because now it's there. It's like, it's not just his army. It's the Winterfell army too. It's not just the Night King's army. It's everybody.
The Thrakis, you got all those guys that are just
everything, yeah.
And if you're pointing out how able-bodied these things are being resurrected, that they still retain some of the skills that they had previous to them dying, you're talking about, like you just said, all the different types of fucking skilled warriors that we just saw taken out.
The Unsullied, the Thraki, like the regular army, like all of them.
That's crazy, man. That's crazy if you think about it.
A lord. Walkers. They fight. They know how to fight.
The White Walkers themselves cannot find a way in, but there are already plenty of dead bodies in the crypts for the White Walkers to reanimate. Suddenly, many of the corpses rise as White Walkers and start clawing their way out of their tombs. They're fairly old and not in the best shape, but the women and children are totally unarmed, and many succumb to the White Walkers. Yeah, this is, I mean,
This is like their old. This is like the Stark family in there, no?
Yeah.
yeah,
Going back to
that's
life, like the great grandmothers and shit like that.
that really fucking backfired on them. They didn't really think that one out.
No, I mean, I didn't
No.
realize that you can resurrect them
Sure,
even in a crypt.
sure.
But if they weren't that strong, they still got through the fucking concrete. I'll tell you that, through the concrete crypts.
That is a brilliant fucking idea, though.
Yeah.
That's where they put them, and then that backfires on that. It really is. That's a really clever fucking move on their part to do that.
That's
So,
a
Yeah.
way to about everybody, man. That's the fucking
yeah.
You know, holy.
As Jon fights off the surrounding White Walkers, Daenerys appears with Drogon and burns them up from the air. Jon calls to Daenerys, planning to pursue the Night King, and Daenerys tells Jon to go. After Jon follows the Night King, Daenerys and Drogon land but stay on the ground for moments too long, finding Drogon being swarmed by dozens of the White Walkers. He just barely manages to fly away, still covered in them, but Daenerys is knocked off his back in the process. However, Jorah appears and helps Daenerys fight off the White Walkers. Daenerys picks up a dragon glass dagger from the ground as well, but they are both exhausted and more of them start surrounding them again. I mean, the visual of all the White Walkers kind of flying off him as he fucking tries to struggle to fly through the air and then like just attacking him was pretty
They're
crazy.
jumping onto him.
Yeah,
Yeah, and you can
yeah.
see it. I mean, that was pretty detailed. Like you can tell that was happening, but you're like, what the fuck's gonna happen now, man? He's gonna.
It's kind of like, I don't know. I have dogs, so like watching him shake off the
Yeah.
White Walkers reminded me of like my dogs like shaking their heads like after a bath or something. Like it was just like, "Whoa, like get off of me, you know?
But I mean, that's how everybody. That's how you'd have to get some of that shit off, right?
Yeah, for sure. Like, yeah.
Oh,
Jon, meanwhile, fights his way back into the
Any
courtyard of the castle on foot in this next scene. Then we cut back to the tomb. Sansa and Tyrion hide behind one of the tombs in this moment, contemplating on helping the women and children in the fight as they cowardly hide against the newly made White Walkers in the crypt with the dragon glass that they were given. I mean, listen, a cowardly but very necessary moment. Again, one of those tragic but shitty things where they're like, we're kind of needed. There's some importance to them.
There's still a couple more episodes for us.
No, I mean, it's really shitty. I'm not justifying that they should have helped in this situation. Absolutely.
Yeah, but
but
they're
I
like,
wouldn't have.
yeah, I mean,
come
Bet your ass I would have hid. 100% I would have hid.
That's what I mean. They come from royalty, whatever. They didn't have to do anything. They brought up well.
the only thing I will say is that they do have weapons. The rest of those people don't. Right? But that's to defend
Well, one
themselves.
weapon or
That's to defend
two.
themselves. No, they both have dragon glass.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
They should have given everybody dragon glass. Like, I don't know why they were forging it for everybody. Like, they should have just given, even if it was just like a little arrowhead, just something, like just something.
Yeah, it's like the Walking
But they weren't thinking about it, right? So it's like, you know, you're not thinking about it.
Right.
Walking Dead,
On the
you can use anything.
No, but on The Walking Dead, eventually everybody had to fight or have a gun or had a weapon. Everybody had to. Everybody in the town, even if you fucking worked in the town.
yeah, but
you had to
whether it be
know-
a stick like the
No,
Unsullied or
but the
whether
whole
it be-
thing with Rick on The Walking Dead was that he wanted to train everybody to be able to defend themselves if they had to.
yeah,
right?
yeah,
Like
obviously,
that was
even
the whole
kids, I
thing.
know.
They had time. She's right. They had time to do this. They didn't.
Yeah.
So, like, unfortunately, yeah.
But they also weren't thinking like, you know, that anybody in the crypt would have to like whatever. It was just like what again, just they think that they had the best strategy and then it just, you know,
Backfired.
I like how the music dimmed during this moment that they shared where they're like kind of together. It's almost like a hand holding fucking moment of
Well,
sorts. They
didn't
are,
didn't
but
he put his hand
they
on
are,
her,
but
yeah.
like it's almost like a sweet moment, but
Yeah.
it's just like they're looking death in the face at that moment. Like they're like, yeah, this is like they're like both accepting that we're not going to go out there and help them, and we're going to have to do this like to survive. And I think they kind of feel bad about themselves in that moment. I think it's the shared like kind of like, okay, I guess
we could have worked.
yeah.
Yeah,
Right? Like, look at us both being cowards. Like, I don't know. Like, but anyway,
Apparently, like I don't know, this I don't think this has been confirmed or whatever, but I know that there's some speculation or there was some speculation that they were hiding behind Ned's crypt.
I was wondering.
And he wasn't resurrected because he was beheaded. So he didn't have a head and that's why he didn't resurrect. And that's why that crypt didn't bust open with something.
But then they not send his body back to them.
They did send his body back.
was on the pike. So
Okay,
yeah. And then they took him off, and yeah.
His head wasn't, but his body was sent back.
Yes.
okay.
Because I think that's what Jamie did. I think that's what he was like. He promised that he would bring Ned's body because that's that conversation he had with Catelyn about like, you know, the honor, like I'm bringing him back. Anyways,
But this head was on the pike for all to see because that was Joffrey's doing, right, at that point in time, right? So anyways, one by one, each of the defenders is killed, including Alice Karstark, until only Theon is left, taking out a dozen more White Walkers until he runs out of arrows. This is going back to the Godswood because they're cutting in between each scene here.
Yeah, Theon's kicking ass, man. He's trying, man.
He put up a fight. He put up a fight, but we'll get to him in a moment because I have some thoughts on this. All right, so now we're going back to Jon. He gets pinned down by the grounded but still very dangerous Viserion. A stab from Jon's Valyrian steel sword might kill the undead dragon, but it is simply too volatile to approach. Badly wounded beyond the point a living dragon would have expired. The huge, I guess, cuts in his body leak great bursts of fire. That's pretty fucking cool too, eh? Like the fire's like seeping out of him. Yeah. As it continues to crash around through the rubble, Jon is hastily forced to dive for cover as Viserion catches sight of him and lets loose a torrent of fire, incinerating the courtyard, which barely misses Jon. Facing certain death and with the battle seemingly lost, he emerges from his hiding place and, resolving to die with what courage he can muster, bellows defiance at Viserion as the undead dragon's jaws gape open, either to devour Jon or blast him with flame. Any thoughts on this scene?
Well, you know, every time he ducked behind something, that's the only thing that never got blown down. Like when they blew it, that they can take down the wall with that fucking fire, but they can't take down the wall that Jon's behind.
Yeah.
Right? It's so true. Like, I don't know what makes him so special.
He's Jon.
He's got maybe
Jon.
I don't know.
He dies.
Yeah, the music at this point has turned. Like it's not like regular audio. It's like lullaby-ish. Like
yeah. And then we cut back. Jorah, we see him almost dead, basically, but still by Daenerys' side as he continues to fight for her in this moment. Then we cut to again, lots of bouncing around cuts here. With no one left to defend Bran, the Night King walks slowly towards him at the base of the tree in this moment. Oh, hold on.
No, we missed.
I jumped ahead. Yeah, so here we go. Suddenly, the White Walkers stop forming a ring around the weirwood tree, then step aside to make a path for the Night King himself, followed by all of the other White Walkers and a horde of White Walkers, some of them temporarily halted by the Night King. Bran Stark turns to Theon and says, "You're a good man. Thank you." Finding redemption for his past crimes against Bran and Winterfell and no longer afraid of dying, Theon grabs a spear and courageously or stupidly charges forward at the Night King. It is not enough as the Night King easily blocks the blow and snaps the spear in half and uses one piece to impale Theon, who slowly dies on the ground. Okay, what the fuck was this? This is the stupidest fucking move he could have. Like, this is like the opposite of the Lyanna fucking charge where she had like literally no choice. He had a choice. You could have just stepped the fucking side at this moment, not even fought him. Like literally everyone's just standing around. All the White Walkers, there's like some holy kind of like, he's like the king walking through. Everyone's at the side. No one's even attacking him. They're like, yeah, let him do his thing. He's the,
yeah, but I mean, it only takes the Night Walker to tell the Night King to tell one guy to fucking come at him.
If he waited one goddamn more second, or Arya fucking jumped out a second fucking sooner, he could have survived. This is the most bullshit fucking moment. I was so mad when he died in this. He was so shitty for so long because he's like, everyone's.
But that's the thing, Nico. Like he was a coward the whole season, and he's just he's trying to redeem himself, and he got permission from the Starks. Yeah. All of them to be like, okay, like we forgive you. And he's just trying to have one last moment of bravery before he goes out.
It was just a shitty fucking, I know, but this was just a shitty fucking like way to go out. Like, he didn't put up a fight against him. Of course he didn't put up a fight against him. Like he tried, but like he was holding it down up to this point. He's right there. No, but that's what I mean. Like just such a shitty fucking run to try to kill him. I'm just like, come on, man. Like, I don't know. I agree with
He
what you're
didn't know. He didn't know that what was gonna happen a second later was gonna happen. Like, he didn't know that.
even Bran was like, it's fine. You've proven yourself. You could have really just stepped aside at that moment.
There's a lot that Bran could have said. There's a lot that he could have said. There's a lot he could have done.
I'm starting to really
Just sitting there in his like woolly blanket, might as well have some popcorn.
But that's the thing.
watching everything. Yeah,
He got his redemption. Theon earned his redemption finally in this moment, and then just dies seconds later. It was just unsatisfying for me. I'm just like, really, like all that you just fucking get killed in 2 seconds.
Well, someone major had to go.
Yeah. It's
Someone major had to go, and it didn't seem like anybody else was gonna go. So
budget.
You're right. I just, I think it was a good effort on his part. He truly did give it his all, so I can't take that away from him. And he got his redemption, so it is good. It is a good death. But I just wish he survived this somehow. 2 seconds later, he would have been fine. That's what I'm saying. That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying.
Bran, as long as he gets the approval from Bran,
Yeah.
he's a good man.
With no
That's
one
all that
left, he
matters.
died. Yeah, honorably, yes. With no one left to defend him, the Night King walks slowly towards him at the base of the tree. Bran looks up at his foe with pity, the Night King staring down at his age-old nemesis, the three-eyed raven, in triumph. As the Night King draws the sword sheathed on his back for the killing blow, a sudden wisp of wind catches the attention of one of his lieutenants, and Arya leaps out of nowhere at him from behind her her Valyrian steel dagger drawn. The Night King instantly reacts, spinning around to catch her by the throat in one hand and her left wrist in the other, and he only has a moment to leer at her before she drops the dagger out of her left hand. Pretty sick move, though, and catches it with her still free right hand and drives the blade into his chest, shattering him into icy shards.
That was like a fucking what's his name? Pedro Pascal. What's his name in this one? What was his name in the season here?
Oberyn.
Oh
It was just like
Martell,
a move that they would have learned. Or the ladies there would have had fight when they're fighting with their swords and shit. And
So
I mean, like, it was just a cool move.
So were you
But she did
surprised
that.
by this? Was this
I
a
thought they were
shock?
gonna choke her, man. I was
Yeah,
like, oh my
no,
God, like,
but her coming out of nowhere. Did this
Well,
what was your
I mean,
walk us through
I
your
know she
reaction
wanted
here?
to
What'd
see-
you
I
think?
know she wanted to see him. Like, I know she wanted to. This was her whole thing. Is just to see what
And
this
we-
guy was.
And we
right?
did know she
No,
was,
like watching the scene, how did you feel as it was happening? Night King walking to Bran, not knowing what the hell was gonna happen.
Yeah, I was wondering, and I didn't know if if the whole point was to go to the fucking tree. Is the Night King want the fucking one tree that's got leaves on it there or something, like, or is it Bran, or what the fuck's the story between why is he drawn to Bran?
Jay, are you serious? Still
asking you a direct question and you're not answering it. It's like, how did you feel this moment? Were you scared for him? Were you worried that he was
who?
going to die
For
in
the
this?
Nico, let's just have a conversation.
I wasn't worried for Bran. Bran is just Bran. He just sits there. Why am I gonna be worried for him? Something is
Oh my god.
I feel like he's the guy that had that maybe broke his back during the filming of this show, and had to stay and see as to fulfill his contract for something. So they just gave him a few words and they made him have 3 eyes. So, but no, honestly, I was more worried after when
I didn't see this moment
when
coming.
when
That's
Arya
an
jumped, that's what
answer.
got me
I did
worried.
not see this moment coming originally. I'll say
Well,
that.
with them
I
meeting-
didn't either.
That's what we're fucking asking
No.
you idiots.
but no, I don't. I because they seem connected somehow. Like Brand's always seen them, right? So I figured that somehow he was.
Did
gonna
you
get
see
drawn
Arya
that.
killing him? Did you expect
No,
that?
Arya. I thought she was gonna get choked
Yeah.
at that point before she even was able
Yeah.
to stab. I thought it was gonna be one of those quick things. It was like,
How
fuck.
about you, Christina?
But-
What did you remember your initial reaction to this? Like, I know there are a lot of people who were unsatisfied with this fact that she easily took out the Night King.
I
It
was
too easy, but I mean, she's skilled.
See, that's a comment.
Yeah.
There's an opinion.
She's
Why
skilled.
don't you fucking give us some more comments and opinions? You're just like, oh yeah, what you mean? Like, no, that's
Hey,
not
I
what
didn't
we're
become a lord for no reason. Okay,
Go ahead,
Listen,
Christina.
I have my comments.
Yeah, you didn't like it, I don't think originally.
I no. At first I was just like, what the hell? This is so dumb. What a stupid ending. La 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 la. But now it's like, okay, now I know the context. You're paying attention to the dialogue. It's like, okay, this was written from like season 2, like when Arya's on her little adventure, like, like, and meeting Melisandre back then and saying all the prophecies and all of this. Like, it all makes sense now.
Yeah.
But in the moment when I first saw it, I was like, oh, hell no. Like, no. The move was cool, but no.
Yeah. No, I know. I feel like somewhat the same the first time that I had watched this episode. But to your point, as time has gone on, all signs were pointing to like this was like, yeah, like this made sense that it happened this way. And of course, like his sister was there to defend him. They even said that she was going to be set up there with him, and we really hadn't seen her. She was struggling to make it there during this period of time, right? You know what I mean? Like, so like, yeah,
It might have been in a tree. We didn't know.
It just, at the time, I think it was unsatisfying because like everything was leading up to this moment. And at the end of this episode, when they killed them, you're like, there's fucking still 3 episodes left. And it's just like, this is a big fucking thing like that happened in this episode, right? So I think some people were left like a little unsatisfied that she was the one, like this guy was supposed to be this big threat in one blow and he's done, right? Which is the whole point though. Like we've been saying.
That's what they've been. That's what I don't know. I think we were expecting a whole battle between like Jon and the Night King or Daenerys. We were expecting this whole battle, I think, but it didn't have to be that. Like, because they kept saying also, we just need to kill him. We just need to kill him. So
that's why I said that earlier. It makes sense that it went this way. It does. It's satisfying. I agree. I like it.
They had to make a woman Kayla. That's what it was.
No.
It
did seem like that at the time, but it's no, and it makes sense. Like it's all of it. And then it's like, like I said earlier, it's just bringing everything back full circle. Like the dagger that she killed him with was the same dagger that was meant to kill Bran in season 1. I think it's called Cat's Paw or something like that.
And he made that dagger before too, when he ended up getting it back. Like he had talked about.
Yeah. And he gave it back to Arya, like saying like, oh no, like this, you have it. And she's like, are you sure it's Valyrian steel? It's kind of like we kept hearing this importance of Valyrian steel and we didn't understand what it was, but now it's like, oh, okay, I get it.
Everything tracks and everything kind of makes that it went
and the other thing is, it was like for the Night King, like what, they were focusing on dragon glass for the walkers, but what was not really talked about was like, obviously, okay, so dragon fire doesn't work for it to kill him. Dragon glass wouldn't have worked either because that's how he was created. When the night children, or when the children of the forest or whatever, like they created him, he was stabbed in the chest with a piece of dragon glass. Right, so that wouldn't have killed him because that's what created him. So the only thing that was going to kill him was Valyrian steel. So one of those like 7 swords that we've been talking about all series, or the dagger, which we didn't think had an importance because it's been passed around, but it hasn't been used for anything since season 1.
Mm-hmm.
See, Valyrian steel's got to be important. They probably knew that took care of the northern people, and that's why they used it a lot back then.
But it's found all over the kingdom. Like it was all over. Like all major houses had a sword.
But wasn't it 1 or 2 in the actual? There wasn't that much of that steel around, was it?
No, but again, it's worth noting that the presence of them on House of the Dragon is so much more than it is here, right?
It was during probably that time.
But that's what's interesting. Again, like just to look at, like, you know what I mean? Like it's mentioned and talk about. It's such a big, important part of this episode. And when they really, as they progress through the series, they really start dropping the Valyrian steel talk more and more in each episode. Like you hear more and more about it.
You too that it's important, right?
Yeah. But that's what she's saying. Everything makes sense. Everything tracks in that sense. Like it was all leading to these certain moments. And however big of these moments that we built it up in our mind, I don't think anybody was going to be satisfied with what was happening in the moment in that sense, because yeah, exactly. It's because you build up whatever you have in your head. You can't even, you know what I mean? Like you can't even imagine what's going to happen at that point, right? That a lot of things are going to be unsatisfying in the end, right? Like the first time you experience it, right? So anyways, with the Night King destroyed, the other White Walkers shatter as well, and in turn, every White Walker falls. All around Winterfell, the few surviving and surrounded defenders see them suddenly drop and fall apart, the magic animating their dead flesh and sinews departing. The undead Viserion dies for the first time in the courtyard, saving Jon Snow. The White Walkers attacking Jorah and Daenerys drop dead, but Jorah is fatally wounded defending Daenerys. He dies in the arms of the woman he loves as Daenerys cries while holding him. Drogon, who survived The attack curls himself around them to comfort her as she mourns. They fall. The Whites fall in the crypts as well, saving Tyrion, Sansa, and the others. The ancient thread of the White Walkers has been destroyed forever. That really fucking sucked. I was sad to see Jorah die, man. But he fucking, it makes perfect sense that he died defending her because he did love her and everything.
She tried
But,
to fight.
like-
She was trying. Like, I mean, I give her that much. That sword must have weighed more than her. Straight up. But she,
Jorah was a hard death for me revisiting this.
Yeah, that was sad.
He lived through all that fucking pain that Sam put him through with all that peeling of the skin, and then next thing you know, boom.
Again, it's just like, that every character has their moment, because like it's just like seeing these guys endure so much, like that guy did during this. He got diseased. He
saved his life. You never know.
Like, look at all
Could've
the
made him like
shit that he went
Leatherskin,
through,
yeah.
right? So Dawn finally breaks over the devastated castle. Melisandre walks out of the gates, removing her cloak, and Davos follows, ready to kill her with his dagger. Melisandre, however, removes her magical choker and drops it on the ground, the glow from its gem fading out, and Davos is astonished to see from a distance that she is now a centuries-old woman. Having used up all of her magical power summoning the fires to defend the castle, she takes a few more steps, then collapses, and her body crumbles away into dust.
Just above and that's when you seen the sunrise come up. But it's funny because that's what it's like. It's like then they say the Lord of the Light and the dark and all this fucking crap. It's just night and day back then. Oh my God, the Lord of the Night goes away for a little while and then it's dark, and then or when
I have
sun's
no
not
idea what
there.
you're talking
You know what I
about.
you gotta get it. Like, you're talking about light.
I'm still trying to figure out how he felt about Arya killing the Night King. So I'm still waiting.
Hey, all her training, she's the only one that could do it. Okay,
So
she's the only one sneaky enough.
Exactly. Thank you. That is another opinion. Thank you.
Well, how many more? I got a bunch of them because I'm looking at.
all right. No, that's enough out of you for this episode. So just like this episode being the longest, this is one of our longer episodes, but I knew we would get to this point at this part of the show because there's a lot to fucking unpack and talk about here. But quickly, here's a quick rundown for the deaths of this episode. The death toll. Here we go. Edison, couple of these names too might be smaller characters who I may have not knew the name of, but they were mentioned in the rundown that I looked up. Edison Tullett, Lady Lyanna Mormont, Lord Beric Dondarrion, Quono, Lady Alice Karstark, who died off screen, Fergus, who died off screen. Who the fuck is Fergus? Anybody know here? Yeah, okay, he died though.
Yeah,
Theon Greyjoy, the Night King, Viserion, Ser Jorah Mormont, and Melisandre are all people that died in this episode.
Too bad we could do like a what do you call it? In loving memory of, and then we'll start listing all the characters.
Oh, that's so funny.
At the end of the episode here.
All right, well, that's gonna do it for this episode, Game of Thrones season 8, episode 3. Any final thoughts, guys, on this episode before we sign off here? Any final thoughts, Jay? Any other theories about how you felt, possibly about any? Where you start explaining the scene to us?
Yeah, and anything, I'm used to seasons trying to start to wrap up quick like this, only because I'm used to watching one season episodes and stuff, so I know how shit can end, and they have to put everything and cram everything in. But they seem to do an all right job on this episode, at least for a fight wise. It was interesting, and unfortunately, some people had lost their lives, but I can understand that.
It had to happen,
Casualties
though.
of the war, right? So,
Exactly. Yeah, and so, but you were overall satisfied with the way things
besides it being dark, right? I mean, those fighting scenes where you didn't even know who the hell was getting stabbed,
right?
You just knew that their face was in the picture,
right?
Yeah.
You were happy with the way the events unfolded, let's say, though.
Yeah, I didn't have a problem with it.
Well, there you go. You go. He's not a fickle fan like the rest of us were originally.
I watch a lot of TV. I'm not very picky. There's a lot of crap I watch that sucks.
We had so many opinions, but yeah, no, I enjoyed this. Of course,
yeah, I enjoyed it. Yeah, I agree with you that some opinions I may have had the first time around have greatly softened now. Like my like to the point where like I'm pretty satisfied with this episode, like in things that happen.
Yeah.
Some of the events, like I said, I'm still a couple things I'm not satisfied with, but that's the way the story is, right? I mean, that's the no fault of it. Yeah, so it's what can I do? So about that. So, all right, guys. Well, we'll see you guys next time. Thank you, Christina, for joining us once again. And the next episode is episode 4, The Last of the Starks. And we'll see you
They're all
guys
gonna
next
die.
week. Make sure you subscribe and all that good stuff. Thank you for joining us once again. We'll see you guys next episode. Thanks, everyone.
Peace out.